For years, I was just one person managing a multi-billion-dollar company. When I tell people what I'm responsible for as one human, they all look at me like I have 16 eyes and say, how do you do it? I do it, and I do it well, but I do it with incredible partners. My professional journey, like many, had lots of U-turns and stop signs and you're going the wrong way. I graduated from UNC Chapel Hill with a degree in public relations, so aspiring marketer right out of the gate. Thought that I landed a job with one of the largest global PR firms. 2008. And everyone knows what happened in 2008. So I moved to Atlanta thinking, all my dreams were going to come true. And no one's dreams really came true in summer of 2008. My dad's in the furniture industry. And I was like, I need to make money however I can. And so he connected me with a furniture showroom in Buckhead that happens to make custom furniture for all the rappers and ball players in Atlanta. So I was literally as broke as anyone could possibly be living in Atlanta, but like hanging out with T.I. and Akon and Neo and Jazzy Faye on the weekends. I happened to go to a networking event trying to find a job in marketing and sat beside an American Family insurance agent who said, I can't help you with marketing, but do you want to sell insurance? And I was like, I'll do anything. I need to make money. So my intro into the insurance industry was actually selling it. American Family is a captive insurance carrier like a State Farm and was really good at selling insurance actually. But it was a nice intro into me understanding really every line of business. That certainly wasn't intended to be my full career path, and got connected up with Chubb Insurance. And that's how I really got into the marketing side. It was a little more business development marketing than my current role, but it was nice to be introduced into the world of the independent insurance agency model and all of the different various carriers that are out there. Came from a world that is one carrier and that was all you sold, and then I realized there was this whole other world out there. One of my agents that I worked with at Chubb was Risk Innovations. That's really how I ended up on the path to GenCap, because I built a relationship with them, had the audacity to tell the owner of Risk Innovations, now divisional president of GenCap, that he was doing everything wrong. And he said, well, what would you do differently? And I spent all weekend putting together a business plan and said, here's what you need to do. And he said, okay, great, you're going to do it. And I said, no. I'm good. Good luck. This is no thanks. And he's persuasive, and I ended up going to work at Risk Innovations. I was there for about 6 years before we were acquired by GenCap. So the evolution of what my role in insurance has changed a lot. It was very heavily focused on personal lines and managing a team and being responsible for production numbers, to more managing sales teams externally, to now it's very focused on specifically the branding and true marketing side of things. I have really worked every different side of the insurance industry, and that has allowed me to really be great at what I do, because I'm not just a marketer who happens to try to market insurance. I'm an insurance professional who happens to, be a marketer. When Risk Innovations sold to GenCap, I was fortunate to be in a place with what I was doing at GenCap that I was pretty much the day after the ink dried. The corporate team at GenCap came down and said, hey, we see what you're doing. We really like how things are going at Risk Innovations. Can you help us with some of our other companies? This was in December of 2018. At that time, I was really primarily focused on business development and more of the sales side than the true, branding and marketing. So when I had the opportunity to start working with various different companies within GenCap, at that time, everyone was a complete separate entity with their own identity. No one had been rebranded to GenCap, and there had been absolutely no consolidation. So they were just ultimately a holdings company with a network of various different companies that they had acquired, still operating exactly as really they had prior to acquisition. So I had a unique opportunity to be one of the first to really cross those lines and, peek under the curtain at the various different entities. And I was fortunate enough to continue to be given the runway and the opportunity to prove that, I could really lead and run their marketing efforts. It was really the first true marketing initiative at GenCap, was moving them from a holdings company with no external brand, because they never had a reason to be, to rebranding GenCap first, because we knew that ultimately we wanted to start consolidating these operations and rebranding everyone up to the GenCap name. But we needed the GenCap name to mean something and to have, an identity that we were proud of. So our partners at Liger always said, you have to build a stadium before you invite people in for the big game. So first we had to rebrand GenCap. We had to build the stadium so that when we started inviting people in, aka consolidating these brands, there was somewhere for them to go for the big reveal, which now we've rebranded over 18 companies in the last not even 3 years. It's been kind of a wild and very fast ride. But we certainly couldn't have done it without the help of Liger. One, not just really from a graphic design standpoint, redefining what the GenCap brand looks like in the marketplace, specifically just the logo and what the logo stands for, and identifying what our brand feels like and sounds like, and just what the overall personality of our brand is. It took a lot of work. And that was just the beginning ultimately, because then when you start operationally consolidating brands, and from a marketing perspective, everyone was used to doing things their own way. They had a different way that they went about their website, or a different way that they went about designing their marketing collateral, or sending email blasts, or whatever the case may be. Everyone sort of was rogue and got to do it however they wanted. So at the point that they got rebranded to GenCap, from a marketing perspective, it was, thank you so much, we'll take it from here, which is hard. It's hard for the companies to lose the independence and the autonomy to make those decisions, but they had a huge, huge, huge benefit of a very, very well-established corporate marketing team that was able to really level them up. And now that we have a cohesive and consolidated strategy, we've been able to just make huge strides forward to just have GenCap's name be so widely recognized, widely respected, widely trusted, and widely sought after. I think marketing means something different at every company, but for me at GenCap, what falls under the purview of marketing that I'm responsible for, I like to say really anything that's externally facing with GenCap's logo on it is probably something that my team is managing. So the high level things are any type of content, written or video, any of our digital properties, website, functionality of website, tools used to make that as efficient as possible for our customers, marketing collateral, email distribution, social media, SEO, paid advertisements, you name it. So with that, there are just endless skills that are required, whether it's to be an incredible writer, to be an incredible graphic designer, to be an incredible strategist. There's so many things that go into that. To be an incredible video production specialist. Everything that we do at GenCap, we partner with Liger. And because our needs are always evolving, what GenCap needed a year ago to what they needed 6 months ago to 3 months ago to now, it's ever evolving. And so I haven't had to take on the challenge of making sure that I had the right people employed to do the right things, because it changes so frequently, week to week, month to month, and I don't have to think about that. So the partnership with Liger has worked really well for GenCap, because regardless of what our specific needs are, it's really like you think about a toolbox, and like whatever tool you need to get that job done, they have it. I manage a lot, but I don't do it alone, and I'm super thankful for their partnership. I've worked with Liger at Risk Innovations for years prior to GenCap, so they're really like family, and I like to say that I work at Liger, but that they also work at GenCap, so they've definitely helped me significantly throughout my career, and just really leveling up and understanding just some of the strategy involved and how to really knock the socks off of people with your marketing. Over the last couple of years, there have been so many campaigns and initiatives that we've launched from a marketing perspective that have just really stood out as being fun. One of them is definitely launching Flip the Cap, a podcast that is a Gen Cap podcast that I host, and putting together the branding for that, putting together the vision for it was really, really fun. And I absolutely love the outcome of that. Our graphic designers at Liger did a fantastic job. But I've been lucky that really anyone that I've asked to come on the podcast, executives at Gen Cap or some of our real subject matter experts, are absolutely, they'll drop anything to come. So I'm lucky to have that support. But the podcast also really supports them. It has gotten great following, and it is able to really position them as thought leaders in their space. So I absolutely had no idea what I was doing when I started it, and that's kind of the fun part of being able to just try something new and see how it goes. It's really not about me. It's about the guests that we have on, and it's built on a really solid branding foundation thanks to Liger. I'm such a content geek. I aspired to be a journalist, and thankfully in this role I get to flex those muscles still from a content perspective, but we put together some really incredible white papers. We try to do that every 2 or 3 months to put together a really nice high value content piece that positions a specific area that Gen Cap really thrives from an expertise level. But from a creative standpoint, I think my favorite white paper we've done is actually the last one that we launched, talking about the cannabis industry. And we wanted to position it a little bit differently because it's really easy to find a piece out there for, top trends in the cannabis industry and what to expect in 2023. But we decided to position it in a different light, which is always the goal as a marketer, is to do something different. And we decided to look at it from the lens of 2028, 5 years down the road. Think of it as the matrix of are you going to take the red pill or the blue pill? If cannabis is decriminalized versus federally legal, we identified 3 different paths that may or may not happen in the next 5 years, but are the most likely to happen. And we basically wrote it as though here's the landscape of the cannabis industry 5 years from now. If this happens, retail agent, which is Gen Cap's customer, here's what you need to be planning for today. Here's how it's going to impact the industry. Here are the coverages that it's going to impact. Here are the things that carriers are going to have to adjust to if this hypothetical but potentially likely scenario happens. But it was just written in such a creative way that it gave the audience different journeys that they could pick, but it was also very value added to them and educational of, okay, well, I do really need to be prepared if and when it's federally legal or, whatever specific scenario it is. So that was a fun one. Graphically, I think my favorite national advertising campaign that we've put together is the one that we're currently running digitally and via print on occasion is, we call it our sketch art campaign. So we identify some of the specific areas that Gen Cap really exceeds: construction, environmental, some of the harder to place risks. We did a window washer, but Liger really put together a fantastic creative concept for this ad campaign to essentially put a piece of paper over a photograph and sketch what could happen. So that's ultimately at Gen Cap what we're insuring against is the unknown, is the if on the worst day XYZ happens, you need to make sure that you have the right insurance coverage. And I can tell you that the insurance industry, when you're flipping through an insurance publication, there aren't a ton of ads that are just sort of hit you in the face creative. We joke there's a lot of insurance blue. And this was just such a creative campaign that jumps off the page at you, honestly, digitally or in print. And we've been able to do several different versions of the campaign. We switch out the creative every month or two to be a different visual representation of something that Gen Cap does really well. But the sketch art piece shows you what could happen. And Gen Cap's job is to make sure that you're properly covered and protected if it does. One of the challenging elements of being a professional marketer is that you always want to have tangible, proven results for your efforts of these are exactly, how many emails were read and clicked through, and exactly how many quotes we drummed up, and exactly how many eyes touched these digital ads. But at its core, when you think about branding and awareness, it's really hard to quantify the success of that, right? Like, someone can't prove that they saw GenCap's name or that in their minds they think GenCap is one of the largest wholesalers in the country. I mean, we can't quantify that, but it's one of the most meaningful things that we do. And ultimately, our partners at Liger have always drilled this in my head. Someone really has to see your brand name 26 plus times before it even means anything to you or resonates with you. You want them to think of you with their hard to place risks. And the reality is GenCap is the 4th largest wholesaler in the country. We're a big deal, but it's a marketer's job to make that name feel like a big deal. Aside from having written results of the number of clicks, the number of reads, the number of conversions, the amount of traffic that the marketing team is able to bring into GenCap, the part that's not measurable but is so gratifying with all we put into really not just creating those results, but just an overall branding and awareness campaign for GenCap is to hear at least twice on a daily basis, not just internally, but when our people are at trade shows and at insurance association conventions and just out doing their business, to always be told, we see GenCap everywhere. You're on our phone, you're in the publications, we see you on LinkedIn, we love the blogs that you're putting out, your content is super helpful, you're everywhere, you look great. You can't measure that, but there's nothing that makes me more proud for the work that I do and that my partners at Liger do for everything that we put into our strategic plan on a yearly basis, to be constantly inundated with people that are just in awe of the work that we do, but also just the presence that GenCap has in the marketplace. And you can't put a number on that. You can't put a value on it. It's intangible. I'm Kathryn Smith, and I am known for being a badass marketer.